Hello, my name is Christine Morgan, and I am here against all better judgment and common decency to share with you my story from this year's KillerCon Gross-Out Contest. If you are unfamiliar with KillerCon, it's an annual gathering of horror writers, and if you're unfamiliar with the Gross-Out Contest, you're probably happier. It's where some of the sickest of the sick minds of the genre come together to attempt, basically, to gross each other out with their most revolting and hilarious and disgusting stories. And my entry this year prompted our esteemed panel of judges to create the Cleanliness Dignity Award. I'm not sure how any of us should feel about that, but I am here to read it for you today, and let it be said, therefore, that this reading is not safe for work, or small children, polite company, anybody really. So if you're still with me, then hello, fellow Twisted Deviant. And I would like to read for you now a piece that I call With Apologies to P.G. Wodehouse. With apologies to P.G. Wodehouse. There's always that one chap, isn't there? That one nasty little buggerfuck nobody can stand with a wet slap of a wank, but you can never seem to get rid of. Like a case of the pox, all itch and irritation, inflammation and runny pustules. Not the sort of thing you very well want to be seen in public with, don't you know? That sort of chap. Every school has one. The sweaty-handed tosser, who has a nodding acquaintance at best with the toothbrush and washcloth. Grimy of neck, green of teeth, with breath fetid enough to drop a charging rhinoceros in its tracks. The token pimple, the wart, the blister, the sore and swollen boil around an ingrown arse hair. The wrinkly brown raisin wart on the collective cockhead of the student body. At our school, that's Willoughby. You know how it is, each term when the new boys are made to kneel at the center of a ring of upperclassmen, who then unlimber the trouser hoses to let fly with a fountainous dousing of the hot and golden. During such inaugural piss showers, most of the so anointed duck their heads, the face being prime target practice, of course, hunch their shoulders, hold their breath, and wait it out, with stoic, stiff upper lippedness as it soaks the hair and dribbles down the neck and collar. Time-honored tradition and all, must rally round for king and country, matey good fellowship, and the dear old alma mater, hey what? Willoughby, on the other hand, lapped it up, but literally, laughing like it was great jolly fun. He's the one who's never content just to sneak into the laundry and sniff the maid's knickers, but nicks the knickers outright, the crustier the better. Not just to sniff either, mind you, but to full-on bury the face in the crotch linens, snorting and snuffling. And if it's that time, hey what? When the red fleet is in, as they say? Why, dashed if old Wet Willie isn't transported halfway to seventh heaven. Fresh or dried, when he comes up for air, you'd think he won a pie-eating contest, smeared from ear to ear. A picker, too, a peeler and an eater. Not a day would go by without seeing him nostril prospecting knuckle-deep, dredging the ear canals for dollops of the waxiest, harvesting his latest crop of scabs, and so on. Naturally, he's not the surreptitious sort about it either, but makes a right production of each, examining his trophies from all angles before popping them into his gob. If he's got a particular hunger on for the mucal morsels, the product of his own nasal cavities might not prove up to snuff, so to speak. That's when you'll find him under the desks with a penknife, scraping away at the snot barnacles deposited there by the more discreet of us. A classroom's worth of such gooey, chewy nuggets, and he's happier than Christmas morning. It happened that, one afternoon, in an appalling lack of judgment on my part, I accompanied Willoughby on what he said was a secret mission of the utmost urgency. What I was thinking is beyond me, but he promised a peek of tits and snatch, and what chap could resist? So off we went. Minutes later, the two of us were hunkered in the woods out behind the dairy shed, where the grocer's delivery man had one of the kitchen girls up against a tree. Her skirt was rucked up, but there was no snatch to be seen, blocked as it was by his crack-split hairy mounds thrusting away. Tits, however, there were in abundance. This was Agnes, who'd just come back to work after her baby died. School rumor had it she'd wrung the squalling wretch's neck and fed it to us in the Sunday meatloaf. As a result, of the baby, that is, not the meatloaf, those tits had attained legendary proportions and status to match. And lo, there they were. Enormous, jiggling, wobbly puddings, tipped with extra-large raspberries, drenched with their own oozings of curdled cream. When the delivery man gave them a greedy squeeze in the course of his rigorous rogering, the milky stuff fair to spurted half a yard over his shoulders. Well, he came and went without so much as a fare thee well, and that seemed to be that. I gave Willoughby an askance look, but he told me to wait, that the show wasn't over yet. Agnes squatted, hiking her skirt clear to the waist, and there was the coveted peak. More than a peak, an eyeful and then some, her snatch on full display. Such a bushy thicket I had never before seen. Even on the raunchiest of the raunchy postcards that got passed around after lights out, until they were creased and crumpled, damp from eager boy spunk. Those pictures showed, more often than not, the trimmed of the quim, if not smooth as a ripe peach altogether, and this, let me assure you, was far from. I mean to say, you fair expected a hedgehog to scuttle out, or pheasants to burst forth, it was so severe an abundance of the dank and tangled. An old-growth overgrowth, such that might have given the hardiest of jungle explorers pause. Well, but there it was, in the flesh, as they say, up close and in person, and I rather had to look, didn't I? Could hardly miss it, posed as she was, stout thighs braced and knees spread wide, gluey strings of the deliveryman's leavings dangling down like pendulous party streamers. Then she had herself a wee. I, fool that I was, expected little giggling squirts and tinkles like we used to hear when we listened at the keyhole of the girls' potty, you know, the way boys do. But Agnes, she loosed such a torrent, opening the floodgates, as it were, a great, hissing, yellow, steaming Niagara, a right proper downspout, gushing into its own muddy piss-puddle hard enough to splash up a spray like the crashing surf. The sound was tremendous, to say the least. We, it turns out, were downwind. Again, fool that I was, I thought this simple misfortune, until I caught sight of Willoughby, inhaling with a deep and basking satisfaction those pungent fumes of onions and ammonia, not to mention a wafting whiff of fishy brine from the cum-sodden clumps of cunt hair. I mean to say, whog! Enough to make the eyes water. Wouldn't have been surprised to see the grass wilt and the birds drop dead on the wing. Yet there was Wet Willie all but drooling down his shirt front. Agnes squittered out a ripe and juicy fart to finish, we caught the full benefit of that fragrance as well, wiggled her hips to shake off the last drops, adjusted her clothing, and went toward the kitchen door. Willoughby then drew out a rather substandard whanger, and told me that he'd do mine if I did his. But a chap's got to have some standards, I mean to say. I demurred, saying instead that we'd best hurry, or be late for cricket practice. That's when he told me he hated cricket, that it was the stupidest sport ever invented. And, well, honestly, what else was I to do but seize him by the back of his grimy neck, drive him face first into Agnes's muddy piss-puddle, and hold him there? To be sure, he kicked and flailed a bit, and blew some ghastly bubbles from both ends, but it didn't take that long. There is such a thing as school pride, after all.